Hello again, everybody. Dakion here with another video report on my progress for you. In the corner of completed miniatures this week, we have this little gorilla, the Growlin or Ape of Barsoom, who has been painted kind of on not pure white, more of an off-white with a lot of shading, but that looks more realistic. The sort of purplish skin tone was, well, that's my own artistic license. I just thought it seemed appropriate. It looked okay. Yeah. Didn't turn out exactly like the painting I was inspired by, but a little bit similar to it. I'll put up a picture, that picture again, just to remind you. So you see, you don't always have to follow your inspiration slavishly. I also, when looking at the footage I just shot, the shading didn't really come across very well in that extreme close-up. I'm hoping you can see it better at a little bit more of a distance. That there's actually a lot of deep shading on the underparts. Well, enough of that. Let's move on. On the Malifaux section of this update, we have this Razor Spine Rattler, who is, I have to admit, the only model out of my crew that I've completed to 100%. He is fully painted and based and everything. You can see that I followed the scheme on the box's picture. I didn't have any strong feelings of my own about what he should look like, so I just tried to see if I could replicate their techniques, see if I could figure out how they did it. And I think I did. I'm pretty certain I painted the same way. The only ideas of my own, I painted the tongue and the gums a slightly different color, and I added, I don't know if you can see there's a hint of green on his fangs, just to indicate the poison that he's got. But I'm pretty happy with the way he turned out. We have several partially done miniatures, for example, Marcus and Miranda here, where I've done mainly the hair and skin tones, some basing work, and I painted the boots because, well, I painted the boots before I attached them to the bases because I didn't want to risk spilling paint onto the ground if I painted the boots after. And I don't know if I'm happy with the skin tones. They're not my best work. I might touch them up a bit later, but they're these are gaming pieces after all. On Marcus, you can see the beginning of how I've highlighted his left side more than the other sides. This is for the lighting from the flame. Now, if I were to copy what they've done here on the artwork, I don't know if you can see. Oops. I should add some a light blue glaze to the most raised areas here as well. If I paint the flame this blue, we'll see if I go that route. But these should get done within the next. There's nothing really complicated on them except for a few finicky details, like the fact that Marcus has a lot of crap hanging on necklaces here, and Miranda has these really complex arm wrappings, sort of leather thongs. I have to figure out what's what there, but they'll get done very soon. And finally, the last member of the basic crew is the Carabus, where I have not done much, just put down some base coats and some base work. I've built up the base at an angle here, so he's standing sort of uphill. I thought that would look more dramatic because then this head is looking kind of forward. If he'd been like this, then this head would be looking down, and it would be kind of stupid. I like it better tilted like this. We'll see. This is possibly the most difficult because the color scheme is not difficult. It's just a tiger. It's just white and orange and some black stripes. It's finding the border between the white and the orange and being very careful and exact about that. That's the tricky part. If I manage to finish those, I want to finish those by Sunday because I have a game on Sunday. If I have some time left over, I've started prepping these mole men. Again, these are old metal figures. These were pretty simple to assemble. They were one piece except for this guy who had an arm. And I might need to do some more gap filling there. Yeah, it's not great, but we'll work on that. And I didn't put them on rocks because these guys burrow through the ground. Like you can see, this guy he's coming out of the ground, and it wouldn't make sense for them to dig through solid rock. So I put them on, dirt basis. But I'll add a lot of grass and stuff like you saw in the Rattler, so it will look nice. It'll look more interesting than just plain old dirt. And finally, I have glued together these little kitties. These are the first of my... This is the first plastic Malifaux models I've assembled. And they're pretty good. I mean, they were simple enough. Most of them were 2 pieces. This one was kind of complex. He came in 6 pieces. And the... yeah, for the most part, these are well planned out. Any mold lines were very well disguised, and the way to put them together is pretty logical. The only issue I had was here. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a gap here in the neck, and there's one hidden behind this paw. The head simply did not fit properly. If I assembled it properly in this end, there was a gap here. Now the glue might fill this in, otherwise we'll see. I'll put the primer on and then we'll see if I need to fill any gaps. But the other thing about these cats is they came with this really big bases. Way too large for these little models. These are 40mm bases. And to understand why, you have to look at the fluff for the game. What these models represent, they don't represent individual cats, actually. Each one of these models represents, as it says on the box, a Horcat pride. A pride of cats is a swarm of cats. They're actually, if they were in scale, they would be much smaller. They would be like, they're not this big. They're house cat big. They're maybe up to her shins, but that wouldn't look interesting to have like a lot of tiny models, and that would be difficult to paint as well. On the other hand, if they put a really big model on there, it will look really weird. So I think they compromised and did something in between. But yeah, that means I'm going to have to fill these bases up with a lot of terrain to make it look interesting. But that is that's a task I'm equal to. I can do that. So let's see next week what we managed to accomplish. Moving on to the bones section, we have these 7 gnolls completed. This shaman I painted a slightly different color to separate him out from the rest, who are basically just armored and armed pretty heavily. For this color scheme on the fur, I was going for something approximating real hyenas, a sort of light brownish gray with darker spots on it. It turned out so-so, not entirely happy with it, but again, since these are just bones, I don't care that much. Here we have, this guy is slightly different than the others. Most of these four with flails are exactly the same. No, this one is like, these four are the same. Here's one that's slightly different because he doesn't have a scale mail vest on. He has like leather with lots of bits of bone attached to them instead. And then this guy with the axe, he's slightly differently equipped. He has some different stuff on his belt, mostly. And then we have this guy. Oh well. Putting them in the completed pile and moving on. As for the rest of my bones minis, as you can see here, not a lot has gotten done. Some of these guys have gotten a few splashes of paint on them. The way this happens is when I have a large collection of miniatures like these that are very disparate, that they're not uniform. It's not like the unit of bugbears or unit of gnolls. You know, putting all of those in front of me and painting them all at once is kind of overwhelming. So what I do is when I have some paint left over on my palette, for example, I have a green that I've used on something else. So I look around and at these and I see, well, what can I paint green? So I paint this cloak green, and I paint this tunic the same color, and I think something else. Oh, his loincloth was painted green. And then I keep doing that, and I've done the orange for a few places, like you see, until like almost most of these minis are covered in different colors, and then I go in and look at the places that are left over and I finish them off. So that's the way to paint, to batch paint when the miniatures are dissimilar. Okay, enough about the bones. So it seems my numbers are looking really good. They will worsen in the coming week because I feel the need to buy a few new Malifaux miniatures. We'll see how many. What you're looking at here is one reason painting might go a little slow in the coming week or two. I just got this Kickstarter that I backed, the Horror on the Orient Express campaign for Call of Cthulhu. And, well, as you can see, there's quite a lot of reading to do here. And I have a lot of bonus stuff that I picked up as well. So, well, we'll see how I budget my time in the near future. But, for now, I think it's time for Dakian to sign off.